Hello all, welcome you all to the Unit 1, which is Film Appreciation and Introduction. So here we learn about what is film appreciation and then what are the elements in film appreciation and some basic film examples in order to understand what this film is all about, how it is taken and how it is involved to create some a great masterpiece. So first I wanted to ask you a question to you all. Just imagine when I ask you a question, it's all about film, right? So you have to imagine and please answer the question. The first question for you is, what are your thoughts on a woman speaking in a poetic manner while reciting the famous lines of Kannagi, the heroine of Tamil epic, in the court of the Pandya king, dressed in traditional Brahmin attire? So, I'm repeating a question again in an explanatory sense of view. What are your thoughts on a woman speaking in a poetic language? She's dressed in a Brahmin attire, but she's speaking in a poetic language, the old Tamil. She's actually speaking the lines of Kannagi. You all know the heroine of Tamil epic. Kannagi, she actually asks justice to the Pandya king for his dead husband. So what are your thoughts are all about? So I'm just giving a minute to you think. So, the possible expected answers, it would be from, I just gathered from all of the students, the possible answers are like, one is a contemporary drama. It might be, you might be thinking that, okay, this lady is dressed in a Brahmin attire, but she speaks in a Kannagi lines in old Tamil, old poetic language. You might think that it is a contemporary drama, suppose they are performing a contemporary drama or not. And the second one is the one who deserves to live like a queen is unfortunately married into a middle class family. So what does it exactly mean here? If you see here, the one who deserves to live like a queen is unfortunately married into a middle class family. So here, like Kannagi, maybe she might be a queen. She's unfortunately married into a middle class family and she's suffering from her husband, all these things you might think that. And the third one is attributing royal language to the contemporary housewife. Maybe the director or the script writer might think that, okay, we can just put a drama where a contemporary housewife is, what if she's speaking a royal court language and how it will be. That is the expected answers. So what are the possible outcomes of this, this particular question and answers? If you see, and here I have just asked you a simple question here. If for the question, you people, the possible answers are also there here. Suppose if you're going for a theater and watching a movie here, okay, everybody will be having a different opinions, different answers. That is what it makes a movie very different from others. Suppose if you're seeing a movie for 10 years before and now you're seeing as a very matured person, your mind will be able to take a film in a different perspective. 10 years before you might think that movie is a waste of time, or like this movie is not having any sense. The youngsters mostly, they will be like considering film as a talkative thing. Suppose if there is too much dialogues, they'll be saying it is so clumsy and then it is so it is like a drama. They used to speak a lot, so I don't like this movie, they'll be saying. But after 10 years if they watch, they might make sense to a person. The movie makes sense to a person. They would appreciate the character there, they would appreciate the heroines or the actor who is acting there. They will appreciate the photographer, the cinematographer who is actually doing the work. So that is what, so the outcomes are here is the ability to read a film is a prerequisite for a film appreciation. Okay, so that's the first major step for film appreciation. The ability to read a film is even a prerequisite for a film appreciation. First you have to read a film, just like you read a book, you have to read a film. Okay, but anyway, in the next point they used to warn us actually, also the over reading will be disastrous. If you have to read a film, that is fine, but only to one extent you have to do it. But if you are doing it in over reading, it will be disastrous. It will not fetch you a good point of view and it will make you so bored, and you might at last you might feel that this film is totally zero and then this totally not worth anymore. You might think that. So in the next point, in a postmodern context, what is a postmodern context? Postmodernism is nothing but breaking down the modernistic element, something creating new from the broken parts. You have to collect all the parts, you have to create a something. Suppose if there is a vase, okay, if you're breaking the vase, and if you can't put again the vase in a original form, but anyway you can put in a newest form, you can create some other art. If you're creating some other art, that is postmodern. Okay, so in a postmodern context, a film does not always have to make a statement, or even a film does not have to tell a story. So what it is needed, there's a question here. So what it is needed actually here, so a film does not always have to make a statement here. The reason why I'm just putting the sentence here, it means that it doesn't have to tell a story for you. Every movie does not have to be so great. For example, we have a lot of movies. Right now we have this movie called Good Night, by it's acted by Manigandan. So it is not of so great movie, but anyway it makes sense for the common people. This movie is actually made for the common people alone. Many of the people suffer from snoring, but it is not a great issue for everybody. Your dad would do, your mother would do, or your sisters would, or you will also will do that snoring, but that is not a very important thing. But what is needed, that is what I'm saying, even a film does not have to tell a story. If a film just exists, okay, so we as a film critic or a film reader, you have to read a film and analyze it in a content way. The next, so I just ask you a question, what it is needed. So it should ultimately give an experience. Experience matters. Experience is all about the film. How much time, for example, the movie Titanic, one of my friend has watched this movie Titanic for 82 times. Imagine the love for the movie. Maybe it might be a love for the heroine too, but the love for the movie, for the Titanic, he or she, my friend, was actually watching for 82 times. So it means that each and every time this person is watching this movie, he or she might get an experience in that movie, right? A different kind of experience. First time it would be so good to watch the movie. Second time he or she would feel that, okay, I should watch it for this expression, this point, this particular scene, I have to watch it. The third time it might be for some other thing. The fourth time it might be for the cinematographer. The fifth time it might be for some photographer. So like how that's captured, and then how the editing is done, and how the enormous ship actually goes and melts in that Pacific Ocean. So everything, it actually gives an experience when, however, how much time you see the movie. So that is what a film should actually give you, an experience. So here for an example, let's read. The school of realism unravels a plot structure chronologically, either from the beginning to the end, or in flashback or beginning. So in camera technique also, to cut from a long shot to close up, a mid shot is interspersed. This makes the movement seamless. The seamless effect of match cutting is rejected in jump cut, used by masters like Godard. Godard is a director. So his movie is Breathless. It uses jump cut for a conversation inside a moving car, and shots are edited together without a change in the camera position. What is what? So school of realism. So now what is realism all about? So realism is an accurate definition, or accurate detailed accurate definition about what exactly is happening in a contemporary life. They show what is happening in our life. Even there is no exaggeration, there is no artistic element, there is no artificial elements are embedded in that. So the school of realism says that a book or a movie, it should have a beginning, middle and end, just what Aristotle says in his Poetics, right? A play should have a beginning, middle and end. That is what they say. A film should actually have a beginning, middle and end. So what do you mean by beginning, middle and end? A film is actually, it should start with a hero being born into a country or to a parents. Then it should be taken to his life journey, and it will end to the birth. That is what they are saying in the school of realism. It should show, the film should show a beginning, middle and end, but there is no chance, right? Because the current filmmakers are making a revolution in the art of filmmaking, how the film should be. They are making their own definition. Suppose if you go to Malayalam cinema, The Malayalam directors are actually making sense into us, the simple things are being aesthetically portrayed in their movies. And coming to Tamil movies, we have blockbuster hits, we have Vijay's movie, Ajit movie, and every other movies. They actually give an enormous experience of fight sequences and then romance and then song sequences. So whatever we want, we have in that thing. So everything will give an experience. This what they're calling in camera technique. Similarly with the plot, how the plot is actually going in the camera technique also, they're just saying from long shot to close up, a mid shot is interspaced. That is what they're saying. If you're taking a long shot and just suddenly you're focusing a person into a close up shot, in between you have to make a mid shot. That is most needed. That is what in the school of realism also says. But what happens here is Godard, directors like Godard, they used a technique called jump cut conversion. Okay, jump cut conversion is nothing but the audience don't feel the pressure, or the audience don't feel any any pressure or anything, any weird things about the pictures moving. It actually moves so smooth and smoke continues, and there is no disturbance in between at all. So if you see this movie, that is what I'm saying, Godard in the Breathless movie, if you see this man particularly, he's a hero here. He was actually he's actually going in a car. Usually how the school of realism in the old traditional way, how they'll direct, if you just imagine, they will just keep a camera in front of the car. It will showcase the person's face. But instead what the Godard is doing is that first uses long shot of the car moving, okay, and in the mid shot he's just establishing the backside of the actor. It means that it gives a different perspective for the audience, okay, and then he moves to another shot. So here it is easily understand that where the car is moving and what the actor is doing actually in the car. He's driving, and then he's not in this picture. If you see, we can't see the emotion of the character here, right? We can't see the emotion or what he's speaking or what he's doing in front of that. We can't analyze what he's doing or not. The director is actually making us, even the audience, even to question the character, what he is doing in the car. The next. So what is cinema? Cinema is such a liberal art that it accommodates all views. It accommodates all views. The meaning, every audience, every person, just like we have 5 fingers, not everything is same, right? The same way cinema should accommodate all kinds of views. So what I'm saying here is cinema is such a liberal art meaning you have all kinds of freedom to even create a new kind of genre. There is something called romedy, right? So romedy is a mixture of romance plus comedy, right? So it is a new kind of genre which has been introduced by the directors. So earlier it was only romance, or this side it will be only comedy, right? So if you just combine together, it makes a romedy. That is what it is. Such a liberal art where everybody, the creators, have the freedom to create their own art, and also it accommodates all kinds of views. If the person does not dislike about this film, if the person likes what he or she likes about the film, they can even say. So that is what I'm saying. It accommodates all kinds of views. The next thing, a student needed to get exposed to this Eldorado of experience without being bogged down by theories. Instead of studying theories, just like Max, we study theories, right? But instead, if we apply to the natural world, practical life, if we apply to our life, it will be easier. The problems can be easily solved. Just like that, films are also like, instead of learning theories, how it is done in words, if you read it, you can't understand what is going on. Instead of that, you have to experience the film. That is what the authors and film critics are also saying. That the last line is, that is why it is said that cinema is difficult to explain, but because it is easy to understand here. It is very easy to understand, but rather to explain. If you are explaining the theories, this film critic is saying this much of amount, he has used a technique, and if you are just explaining it to that, you can't understand, right? So only when you see a film, if you watched like, or a in case if you say like, if you're watching per week 3 movies genres, okay, and if you're just going on to that, you would understand the aesthetics of film. Yes, so what you can understand, what is the style of each directors it might influence. The next, So the last is, so what is film appreciation? So film appreciation is nothing but an appreciation or criticism should be a well organized cognitive exercise so that the reader will not only be enriched but also a familiar application oriented process will happen. So it is a cognitive process where it is an organized, a film critic or a film observing people, they should be a good observer and a listener, right? So they should observe the film, they should understand the film for 2.5 hours. It is not, the 2.5 hours is not meant for to enjoy and to clap and whistle for the whistle and then you have to enjoy the movie. Instead, you can understand what is the amount of energy, what is the amount of hard work they have put into make this movie a great work. So for this example, let's take this Charlie Chaplin. As you all know, Charlie Chaplin is not an actor. He is an actor plus director of half of the movies he has directed. Whatever movies he is acted, he is actually director here. So Charlie Chaplin, he has directed the classic films such as Modern Times, The Great Dictator, etc. So he activates a sense of proportions and reveals to us an overstatement of seriousness lurks the absurd. For him, the theme of life is conflict and pain, and all his clowning was based on it. So if you see this picture, this movie, the first slide, the first picture is taken from the Modern Times, the second picture is taken from the movie Great Dictator. So if you closely watch and analyze this Charlie Chaplin, everybody, if you ask Charlie Chaplin, who is he? He'll be saying he's a comedian. But he's not a comedian, right? He just acts in a movie. He's a hero of the movie, but nobody understands Charlie Chaplin's character there, right? Since from our childhood, we used to see Charlie Chaplin as a comedian because people used to say he's a comedian, he's a good actor, but he's also director of the film. He's also acting as a hero of the film. But what he mentions here, if you understand Charlie Chaplin, you can draw a close connection with, the actor Vivek. We have comedian actor, we have Vivek, right? So these both people, they share a common characteristics where their comedic elements are actually based on political views. Charlie Chaplin's comedies were fully based on the people, how the people suffered in times of Hitler Nazi regiment, and then the economic depression and whatever struggles they face in society. That is what he was actually portraying to the society in the means of a film, but what we audience perceive him as a comedy, right? So if the mustache here in the second picture, if you see the mustache here, it just elaborates the character of Hitler here, but here he just brings a different version of Hitler. The amount of conflict and pain he was going through as a person, it was all brought to in this film, but what we perceive is another kind of genre, which is a comedy. Right. This is also the movie still from Moving Times. Here he used to go for the bend clock, that London's clock tower. So he used to get struck in that thing, and then it seems to us a comedy, but it is a real life struggle of a clockman, one who adjusts a time and then one who checks the clock every day. Sometimes he used to get crushed with that, that wheels of that clock. So it all talks about the plights, the miserable things, whatever they undergo in their life. So next one is something you want to learn is cross-textual references. So what is cross-textual references? Nothing but in a book, when you read a book, sometimes you might get suppose an actor, they used to talk about an author line in a book, inside the book there will be another text reference. So same in the movie, they will be referring, for example, if you talk about Ponniyin Selvan movie, right? So if you talk about that, the characters actually, one character, lead character, he used to recite some poems of some other poets, Tamil poets. He used to talk some proverbs. That is all called cross-textual references. Character, actually he's in a film, but also he's just taking some references from other books or other films, and if he's talking like that, it is called as cross-textual references. So I am just giving an example here. It is Orson Welles, the director Orson Welles, Citizen Kane, that is a movie here. He begins the lines from Coleridge, Kubla Khan. As you all know, Coleridge, St. Coleridge's Kubla Khan is written in 1816. It's a famous poem. So he starts the scene with reciting the poem lines. That is how he becomes famous in this particular scene. In order to establish his poetic sensibility, he used to actually recite this poem lines. Next. The another cross-textual references where we go through is, you would have seen, by analyzing this picture, you would know that this is a famous movie of Thalapathy. We have this Rajinikanth and Mammootty here. So if you talk about this movie Thalapathy, it is they have this Karna imagery, Karna imagery which is been shown in Mahabharatam. So popular in case of Karna imagery in Thalapathy, alluding to the mythological character Karna, is called Surya here. So here often they actually compare Karna with Rajinikanth here. That is why Karna, the ultimate meaning is Surya, the sun, right? So here every frame, if you talk about every frame, wherever Rajinikanth comes, wherever he comes, the sun actually, its face is behind it. Mani Ratnam has actually made, ultimately owing to the comparison between Karna and Rajinikanth here, they actually make this Karna imagery to be impacted in this movie Thalapathy. Now if you see in the pictures, the first picture, it is a back shot, but even though there is a sun behind it, so it symbolizes Karna is a powerful, it is equal to the sun. So the reunion between abandoned son and a mother is promised by the husband of his mother. It is a second, if you see this side, this towards the right side, you can see some small shots of the pictures. So here the mother is there. So everywhere Rajinikanth is being, even in his childhood age, even in his young age, wherever he is, there will be bright light giving to focus on his face. It means that he is compared to the Karna, it is it's called Surya. Yes, the two shot frame holds a glittering sun in the up center. That is one cross-textual references which is given in a movie. In the movie even they have been giving a cross-textual reference. The same picture you might understand if you see it closely by watching one picture after the other. So we were seeing about sound in cinema creates a visual imagery in one's mind. The visual also creates an oral effect. So I told you sound, and then the visual goes along with this, and it will create a treat for the audience. And the same example is also shown in the next line. Sound and image in cinema also stands for companionable silences and passes. The silence and passes are also a kind of a sound, if you know that. It does not always have to be a symphony or a moving visual. It can be a photographic stillness, as in the film Moli by Radha Mohan. So if you talk about Radha Mohan's Moli, some of you would have watched it. If you are not, please do watch so. So the title of the movie flashes on the screen here. This is the opening credits of the movie, and when the title of this movie, this particular movie, is actually flashes on the screen, the letters, it actually resembles a music notations. If you can see that, it is actually, the title is actually focused on this musical notations, and there is silence for background score. There is no background score for this alone. For this movie credits also, the opening credits, only for this title there is no background score. That is what I'm just asking a question here. Isn't music a language? Music is also a kind of language. I purely agree upon that. I know that you also agree with this. This is music also purely auditory. Does a music always should have a sound? Isn't silence more eloquent than sound? So what I'm asking here is a question where there is very silent. If there is no sound, there is nothing. You can't hear anything. But even though there is rhythm pattern, there is some sound in the silence also. That is what it is ultimately expressed in this whole movie, where Jyotika is actually, she's a lead actor here in this movie, and she's a deaf and dumb heroine. She's portraying the character of the deaf and dumb, and she doesn't hear any voices. It is simply silent. For her it doesn't make any sense. Even if we talk, even if we sing a song, or even if we hear a song, or even if anyone is calling, it doesn't make her so happy about it. But in the movie, when the movie ends, the full process of the movie, the movie Moli is actually fully about silence is more eloquent than sound. Silence has more powerful meaning. It always it always conveys a powerful meaning, for than sound. That is what it has been expressed in this whole movie. That is where this opening credits even will give a great message. It will give a bright message to the movie, whoever is watching the movie afterwards. After this movie, the whole 2 hours of movie, this one credit title is even enough to explain the whole movie. That is what they're talking about next. So the last, coming to the last part of the video session, we have the famous movie which is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Psycho is a movie which is released in 1959, where we have a famous scene, bathtub murder scene. So nowadays it is very evident in the contemporary horror movies and thriller movies. We have this murder scene which is so eloquently and then so uniquely, and it will be a thrill. We'll have a goosebumps when we watch such kind of movies. So if you talk about the Psycho movie here for the bathtub murder scene, there are 6 frames I have been given for you people. So if you see the first thing, they will be focusing on the shower. It actually flows, the water is flowing very fastly. It means that there is some tension over there in the film. Okay, so there is something gonna happen. That is why the director is actually focusing on the fast flowing water. Okay, the second shot, if you see, you can see a shadow, a silhouette image of a person who is actually holding a dagger in his hand. A dagger, and then it means that suddenly we actually have a feeling of, okay, something is going wrong here, some tense moment is actually going on here. And when you see a person who is a stranger to that house, you immediately shouts. That is what the next person is doing. The heroine is actually shouting. It's focused on the full effect. It actually gives us, the third picture gives us the emotion of what is going on here, and the fourth picture, she says no. But even though that is what is going to happen, a murder is actually going to happen, a homicide is actually going to happen. Second, they show the sinkhole. The sinkhole is like flowing with the freshly filled water. But when the heroine is stabbed, okay, she's stabbed and she's getting murdered, it might turn into red color. Okay, so it means that something awful is going to go in this bathtub murder scene. And the last slide, you can ultimately feel the chillness of the heroine, when she's gasping for a last breath. Her eyes are actually making bulged out, and then she's crying for help, and she's saying no. Even though she's gonna die, she's saying to stop, to to force her to actually make her die. That is what the picture is all about. So that's all. To recap this, we will just go along with some main important points. So today we talked about what is film appreciation. So film appreciation is nothing but analyzing and understanding the film elements, what is actually gonna make a great film, right? And we also saw about some certain examples from the movies, and we have talked about cross-textual references, how it is intelligently used in the movies, and what is the texture of the movie, and how it makes the audience so crazy about it. They can actually compare with one book, and then they can actually talk about in the film also. In that way, it is connected. Cross textual reference, we have seen it. And the next point, cinema is just an experience. You have to go through an experience, and we have talked about a lot of things about sound, visual imageries, and the oral setting of the movie. A movie, finally, one thing what in this class we have discussed is, a movie which is even taken by a simple person handing over a handheld camera, and he is taking a documentary. And this side, a person who is actually interesting, and he is just professionally making a lot of artists, and then a lot of technicians are working behind, 100 technicians are working behind. 1,400 crore project movie if is going on. Both the movies are same, right? But the amount of hard work is different. And even if maybe we can, who knows, The single person who had a documentary series can get an Oscar award, but this person may not be nominated for the Oscar award, because the amount of picture, the experience where the audience get is different, right? Each cinematographer, each director has a different sense of directing a film. So let's in the next video we can see about the second part of this unit. Thank you.